He was a billionaire CEO with a perfect life on paper, until a fearless marine biologist with a coffee-stained apron and sea-glass eyes turned his world upside down. The Disruption Effect is a powerful love story about walking away from power, breaking an arranged engagement, and choosing passion over a perfect plan. Cole Harrington had control of everything, except his heart. Want to know how a single coffee changed everything? Watch to the end. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable love stories that just might change your perspective too. The tires of a matte silver electric hypercar screeched against the wet morning asphalt, halting with perfect precision in front of a small brick cafe nestled between a bookstore and a florist on a quiet Seattle street. Heads turned. Some glared at the interruption, others gazed in curiosity, their eyes trailing the man who stepped out. Cole Harrington adjusted the cuff of his charcoal wool suit, the custom fabric barely moving with the fluidity of his practiced motions. His jaw was square, his hair combed back with exacting sharpness, and the sapphire dial of his Lange & Söhne watch glinted as it struck 7:30 a.m., not a second early, never a second late. Punctuality was not just a habit for Cole. It was the foundation on which he had built Helios Innovations, a tech empire spanning 3 continents and valued at over $12 billion. He barely acknowledged the valet as he handed over his keys. "No scratches today?" he murmured with detached calm, a subtle jab referencing yesterday's minor imperfection that had somehow escaped the young man's eye. But not Cole's. Nothing escaped Cole. He didn't believe in chaos, he believed in control. And yet, for reasons he refused to overanalyze, he returned every morning to this particular cafe, with its chipped walls, dim Edison bulbs, and uneven hardwood floors that creaked like they had a story to tell. Inside, the usual hum of caffeine-deprived chatter filled the air, the sharp scent of roasted beans weaving through soft indie music. Cole made his way to the window table, the one always waiting for him with a small reserved card. His name never written, but always understood. As he sat, his eyes remained glued to the financial dashboard streaming across his phone. NASDAQ opening bell in 27 minutes. Board strategy call in 90. And tonight, an engagement dinner with Vivian Lancaster and her influential family. Everything accounted for, except the barista behind the counter wasn't the usual guy. No Trevor. Instead, a woman with wild, unrestrained curls twisted into a messy bun stood at the espresso machine, apron smeared with what looked like the ghosts of yesterday's lattes. She glanced up, met his gaze, and smiled. Not with admiration, not with flirtation, but with a kind of amused disinterest that jolted him from his schedule. "Your usual's a medium Ethiopian pour-over, splash of almond milk, ceramic mug, handle at 4 o'clock, she said as if reciting a weather forecast. "I'm guessing you're Cole Harrington." He blinked. "And you are?" "Maya Bennett. I'm filling in for Trevor. Don't worry, he left me a full dossier, including a triple underlined note about not using cold almond milk." A beat passed, then, unexpectedly, a corner of Cole's mouth lifted. Maya didn't smile back. "Though personally, I think anyone who notices a 2-degree milk difference might need hobbies. I have a multi-billion-dollar company. That takes up most of my hobby time," Cole replied dryly. "Right, and I serve coffee between building coral reef simulations. We all have our cross to bear." That made him pause. "You're a marine biologist?" "PhD candidate," she said, setting the cup in front of him. The handle was, indeed, at exactly 4 o'clock. "Specializing in urban reef regeneration. But today I'm your caffeine dealer." Their eyes met again, hers sea-glass green, steady and unbothered. For a man who orchestrated every variable in his life, Cole Harrington suddenly felt like he'd stepped into an equation he couldn't solve. When he took the first sip, the temperature was perfect. The taste was exact. Yet somehow, nothing about the moment felt routine. Not the coffee. Not her. And for reasons he didn't fully understand, he looked forward to returning the next morning, not for the Ethiopian blend, but for the unexpected variable behind the counter. The next morning, Cole Harrington arrived at the cafe at precisely 7:30 a.m., his presence as polished and imposing as ever. But this time, something was different. As he stepped through the door, a brief flicker of anticipation stirred in his chest, an emotion he quickly dismissed as irrelevant. Yet as his gaze swept across the counter and landed on Maya Bennett, sleeves rolled, hair slightly frizzed from the drizzle outside, his expression softened in a way that hadn't happened in years. She didn't notice him at first. She was grinding beans, humming softly to a psalm playing overhead. It wasn't until Trevor waved at Cole and called out, "Morning, Mr. Harrington," that she turned. "Oh, you're back." Her voice was flat, unimpressed, but her eyes twinkled with something resembling amusement. "I like routine," Cole said simply, approaching the counter. "And your coffee was adequate." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Adequate? Be still, my heart." He couldn't help it. He smirked. Over the next 2 weeks, their interactions became a quiet ritual. Cole always arrived at the same time, took the same seat, and Maya, whether brewing coffee or buried in coral growth simulations on her laptop, became an unintentional constant in his day. She was unlike anyone in his world. Where others angled their voices to impress, Maya didn't care if he was impressed. She never adjusted her tone to flatter. She spoke passionately about microplastics and coastal reef damage, her hands gesturing wildly when she got excited, and her eyes sparking with conviction. He found himself lingering longer after each coffee, asking questions he had no business caring about. What impact did urban runoff have on reef structures? How did she plan to fund her postdoc research? Had she considered working with corporate partners? The last one made her scoff. "I don't exactly trust corporations to care about ocean ecosystems," she'd said once, tossing a sugar packet into the trash with more force than necessary. Too many greenwashed initiatives that end up being marketing fluff. Cole didn't defend himself. Instead, he listened, really listened for the first time in years. And something shifted. One evening, on a rare whim, he attended a community environmental talk at a university hall downtown. He slipped into a seat at the back, unannounced. Maya was the speaker, her voice steady as she explained the complex symbiosis between reef structures and urban coastal development. She used no flashy graphics, no theatrics, just facts, hope, and urgency. The audience was rapt. So was he. After the event, he waited until the crowd thinned before approaching her. She blinked in surprise when she saw him. "Didn't expect to see you in a college auditorium," she teased. "Neither did I," Cole replied. "But I heard the speaker was passionate about saving the world." She rolled her eyes. "Funny." He shifted slightly. "I'm serious. You're onto something. Helios has a neglected environmental research division. It's underfunded, honestly underused. I want to change that." She crossed her arms, studying him. "You're proposing a partnership?" "I'm proposing an opportunity," Cole corrected. "To do what you're already doing, on a much larger scale." Maya hesitated. She wasn't the type to leap at offers, especially from men in tailored suits. "Why now?" she asked quietly. "Because maybe it's time I stopped building things that only benefit the shareholders," he said, surprising even himself. For a moment, they stood there in silence, the buzz of the hallway fading around them. Maya gave a cautious nod. "I'll think about it." As Cole left the building that night, he realized something he'd never allowed before. Not all power came from control. Some of it came from being open to change, from seeing someone else's purpose and letting it move you. And Maya Bennett, with her ocean eyes and battle-worn optimism, was changing him, one careful conversation at a time. The evening sky hung low over Seattle, bruised with streaks of violet and charcoal, as Cole Harrington stood on the rooftop of Helios Innovations, staring out over the city he'd helped transform. From this height, everything looked manageable, like a circuit board of blinking lights and organized movement. But tonight, for the first time in years, his world felt unruly, uncertain. Because downstairs, in the gala hall of the St. James Hotel, his fiancée Vivian Lancaster waited, flanked by press, politicians, and powerful people expecting Cole to show up arm in arm with the senator's daughter, closing the final loop of their corporate political merger, masked as a marriage. Instead, he was here, a glass of untouched whiskey in hand, thinking about Maya Bennett. She had challenged him again that morning. He'd stopped by the cafe to bring her a printed draft of the proposal his team had prepared, an initiative that would place her reef regeneration methods into 3 pilot coastal cities within the year. He'd expected excitement, maybe even gratitude. What he got was silence. "This is all very flattering," Maya said after scanning the folder. But I need to ask, how much of this is about the science and how much is about you trying to fix a guilty conscience? Cole blinked. Excuse me? She met his gaze squarely. You show up to my lectures, you fund my research, you listen, more than I expected, but you're also engaged, Cole, to someone else. Her words had landed like a slap. He hadn't responded, not immediately. He'd stared down at his espresso, suddenly aware of the weight of the platinum band on his left hand. He'd worn it for appearance, for optics. Vivian's idea. It warded off opportunists, she'd said. Yet somehow it now felt like a shackle, not a shield. Later that day, Vivian had called him, twice. By the second voicemail, her tone had turned sharp. I expect you at the gala by 7. No excuses, Cole. We need the investors reassured. And wear the blue tie. It matches my gown. But he didn't go. Instead, he'd found himself driving toward the university campus again, his car cutting through the city like a whisper in the dark. Maya's dissertation defense was underway in a packed auditorium. He didn't enter. He stayed just outside the glass doors, watching her from the hallway through the narrow window. She stood at the podium, focused and fierce, answering questions with poise, her slides clicking past behind her like waves unfolding across the reef. He saw something in her then, something so rare in his world, purpose untainted by profit. By the time the committee chair announced that her work was groundbreaking and the room burst into applause, Cole felt something rise in his chest he hadn't felt since his mother was alive. Pride, not in what he'd accomplished, but in who he had the privilege of knowing. Now, back on the rooftop, he made a decision. He pulled out his phone and dialed Vivian. Cole? She answered, her voice tight. Where the hell are you? I'm not coming, he said quietly. A silence stretched across the line. Then her voice turned icy. You're choosing her. Some choral crusader with a caffeine addiction? I'm choosing myself, Cole replied, then hung up. The fallout was immediate. By morning, headlines screamed of a broken engagement, Helios stock dipped 5%, and Senator Lancaster issued a veiled statement about professional disappointments. His board panicked. Investors called non-stop. But Cole, surprisingly, felt calm. Because somewhere between a coffee-stained apron and a coral reef, he had realized he didn't want a life that looked perfect. He wanted one that felt right. That afternoon, he stood outside the research center with 2 coffees in hand. When Maya appeared, tired, radiant, victorious, he handed her the macchiato. You did it, he said simply. She nodded, eyes scanning his face. And you? I walked away. Maya looked at him, searching. For good? For real? Cole said, and for the first time, I'm not looking back. The backlash came like a storm front, fast, cold, and relentless. Within 24 hours of Cole Harrington's very public disengagement from Vivian Lancaster, headlines blared from every major outlet. Tech titan ditches political heiress for barista scientist, one article read. Merger meltdown. What's next for Helios Innovations? Read another. Social media frothed with speculation, and the investor forums burned with outrage and confusion. Cole had built a reputation on unshakable foresight, on never letting personal matters interfere with business. Now he was the center of a scandal, painted as impulsive, irrational, even reckless. Inside Helios Tower, the boardroom boiled. His CFO presented grim projections with a clenched jaw. Windsor Media Group has pulled out of the strategic partnership. We're down 7% in pre-market trading, and the Japanese investors are requesting a formal explanation. Cole sat at the head of the table, calm and collected, his fingers steepled, eyes steady. Then we pivot. Expand our talks with Yamamoto Group in Tokyo. Accelerate negotiations with the Nordic Tech Collective. We lose 1 merger, we build 5 more. Mr. Harrington, said Jenkins from PR, shifting uncomfortably, the press needs a deeper statement. They're framing this as a love scandal. We need to refocus the narrative. Then give them a new headline, Cole said, sliding a folder across the table. It was emblazoned with a new logo, the Bennett Harrington Marine Trust. A stunned silence fell as executives flipped through pages outlining a multi-million-dollar initiative, spearheaded by Maya's methodology, to fund and implement coral reef regeneration in high-risk coastal cities around the world. Miami, Singapore, Cape Town, Sydney. This is a conservation initiative, someone said incredulously, not a hedge fund. It's both, Cole replied smoothly. The future of innovation is sustainable. This isn't charity, it's longevity, and it's good business. Behind the corporate resolve, though, a quieter conflict stirred within him. Maya hadn't accepted the consulting role. Not yet. After the defense, after their coffee on the sidewalk, she had thanked him again for showing up, for seeing her, but made it clear she needed space. "I need to know this isn't just your reaction to everything falling apart," she'd said. "I need to know that you actually believe in this, not just in me." So he'd given her time. He hadn't called, hadn't pushed. Instead, he let actions speak. The Marine Trust launched with a quiet press release and a flood of internal funding. Cole restructured departments, reassigned top engineers to research with Maya's team, and personally approved every proposal that crossed his desk. His mornings still began at Moonlight Cafe, though she wasn't always there. When she was, they exchanged pleasantries, warm, cautious, but never more. The space between them stretched taut with unspoken words. One night, weeks later, Cole sat alone on his penthouse balcony, city lights glittering beneath a restless sky. His suit jacket lay draped over a chair, untouched. In his hand he held a silver pendant shaped like a coral branch, custom designed, delicate and understated. He turned it over in his fingers, over and over, as if trying to make sense of everything it represented. The next morning, just before dawn, he walked into the research center, carrying 2 cups of coffee. A tech assistant blinked at him in surprise but pointed him to the back lab without question. He found Maya crouched beside a tank, adjusting coral scaffolds under soft blue lights. She didn't look up. "You're not supposed to be here this early," she said quietly. "I brought you coffee," Cole replied, setting the macchiato on the bench beside her. She finally met his eyes. "You've made quite the statement." "I didn't do it for the media." "No," Maya said, standing, brushing her hands on her lab coat. "You did it for the work, for the future." "I did it," Cole said, stepping closer, "because it's the first thing in years that's felt right. Even if you walk away from all of this tomorrow, I'd still fund it. And if I don't, then I hope," he said, voice lower now, "you'll stay long enough to see where it leads." Maya searched his face for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "One condition." "Name it." "No more press releases without my input," she said, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. He returned it. "Deal." 3 months later, the air along the Seattle waterfront was warm with late summer sun, the breeze off the Sound carrying the scent of salt and the low hum of seagulls circling above. Cole Harrington stood outside the Marine Research Center, 2 coffees in hand, his suit replaced by a light jacket and rolled-up sleeves. A new rhythm had taken hold of his life, one built on purpose instead of precision, fueled by quiet mornings, coral updates, and messages from Maya that ranged from breakthrough data to sarcastic commentary about his questionable coffee knowledge. She still teased him for calling it a medium roast when it was technically light. He spotted her across the lab through the glass walls, hair tied back loosely, safety goggles perched on her head, a streak of algae on her cheek like war paint. She was laughing at something one of her interns said, and the sound made something inside him relax. She hadn't seen him yet. He waited until she stepped away from the tank and tapped lightly on the glass. She looked up and smiled, wiping her hands on a towel as she opened the door. "You're early," Maya said, her voice warm. "You're always worth being early for," Cole replied, handing her the macchiato. "Flirting before 9 a.m.? Dangerous," she teased, but she took the coffee with a grateful sigh. "God, I needed this. I've been up since 4 calibrating sensors." "I know," he said. "Your assistant posted a photo of you asleep on the sample log." Maya groaned. "Remind me to revoke her social privileges." They walked toward the waterfront together, passing technicians loading equipment onto a boat headed for Miami. The Bennett Harrington Marine Trust had officially expanded to 3 global projects, all based on her research. Local fishermen had begun partnering with the teams, and the initial biodiversity scans were showing promising results. "This is real, isn't it?" Maya asked, eyes scanning the horizon. "It's real," Cole said, "and it's only the beginning." She glanced at him, thoughtful. "You know, I used to think love and work had to live in separate compartments, that if I ever cared too much about a person, it would get in the way of what I'm trying to do. And now?" "Now," Maya said slowly, "I think the right person actually makes the work more meaningful." They stopped at the edge of the dock. Cole pulled something from his pocket, a slim black box. Maya's eyes widened. Before you panic, he said quickly, it's not that. He opened the box to reveal a simple silver pendant shaped like a coral branch. Elegant, organic, unpolished, just like her. I saw it at a gallery in Copenhagen, he explained. It's recycled silver. Proceeds go to reef recovery in Indonesia. It reminded me of you, strong, beautiful, restorative. Maya touched it gently, then looked up at him. You keep doing this thing where you surprise me. I'm not trying to surprise you, Cole said. I'm just trying to keep up with you. She laughed, soft and breathy. I'm glad you found your own current. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of wind-blown hair from her face. I'm not just drifting anymore. I'm swimming toward something. Maya held his gaze, the sea lass glint in her eyes as sharp and soft as ever. So what happens now? We keep building, he said. Together, no blueprints. Just instinct and intention. And maybe a few spreadsheets, she added. Fine, but no PowerPoints before coffee. Deal struck, they leaned in together, the kiss warm and certain. 6 months later, the Moonlight Cafe buzzed with quiet celebration. Blue and green lighting danced on the walls. Scientific displays lined the tables, showcasing data and photos from the reef sites. Trevor, now something of a legend in their circle, delivered 2 coffees in crystal glasses. To partnerships, he toasted as Cole and Maya clinked their cups. And outside, on the same sidewalk where a billionaire once met a barista who didn't care who he was, a small bronze plaque had been added near the door. This is where the disruption began. Sometimes the most powerful changes in life begin with a small disruption, a spilled coffee, a chance encounter, a question that forces us to look inward. Cole Harrington had everything the world defines as success: wealth, status, control. But it wasn't until he met someone who didn't care about any of that he began to truly live. Maya Bennett didn't just challenge his perspective. She awakened his heart, his purpose, and his courage to choose passion over pressure. This story reminds us that life isn't meant to follow a rigid script. The most meaningful relationships, the most impactful work, and the truest versions of ourselves often emerge when we allow ourselves to deviate from the plan. Love, integrity, and purpose don't thrive in carefully curated schedules. They grow in the unpredictable, in the uncomfortable, and in the brave choices we make when everything is on the line. In a world obsessed with perfection and performance, this story is a reminder to ask yourself, are you living by design or by default? Because sometimes, choosing a path that doesn't make sense on paper is the only way to find what truly matters. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And if this journey moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in second chances and unexpected beginnings, don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt, thought-provoking stories like this one. You never know what disruption might lead to your own transformation.